Hello and good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, and in some locations, good evening. This obviously is the new episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special. It is the latest in shows for Double Barrel Gaming, which has officially made me a full-time streamer. I'm Mr. BoomStick XL, and this is, folks, is Double Barrel Gaming. I want to welcome you to the first of 5 live streams for the week after Thanksgiving. We have a lot to get into. Obviously, I've been advertising the heck out of this. We have learned that apparently, no matter what Microsoft does, nothing is going to be good enough for Jim Ryan and PlayStation. And of course, we have heard, and I'm going to read the document verbatim, that they are looking to have this deal blocked 100%. Today, we are very, very happy and blessed to have our special guest with us, Crispy Bomb. What's going on, Mr. Turkey? After what I heard, the amount of turkeys I heard you handled, I know you never want to see turkey again. Welcome back.
Oh yeah, the tryptophan has kicked in, my friend. Yeah, it's great to be back. I've actually I don't think I did anything last week, which was well into it. Was a little sick, whatever cold. It's not COVID, but I'll tell you, it'll whoop your butt real quick. You don't feel very well, and it's kind of all over the place. So if you're feeling like one day you feel good, the next day you feel horrible. Yeah, trust me, that happened to me last week. Luckily, we got through it, and it's just great to be here and for the first time on the Lunch Break Special. So
Yes,
how about
that's
that?
right. That's right, Jay. Now you officially, I think you've been on every show that I
Oh
have.
no, we got X-Fog at some point. We got to figure that one out.
Yes, you know what? Maybe we got to do a one-on-one with Crispy Bomb. That's right. We got to get that done. Folks, the gameplay you're going to see today is Gun Grave Gore. Now, I got to tell you, it didn't do good in the reviews, but if you like cheese, if you like nacho cheese times 1,000, this is the game for you. It's an Xbox Game Pass. It's a stunner to look at. It's very 90s inspired. Like I said, it's packed with cheese, but it does it in a way that's respectable and quite violent. You're going to see some of the violent acts that I'm going to do for you live on the screen here. I'm quite enjoying it. Like I said, I knew what I was getting with this. It is an anime. Like I said, it just is what it is. But I think you should play it. It's in Game Pass. We're also going to get some new Sonic Frontiers footage. Folks, Sonic Frontier, man, Keasante's in the chat. Those knees might be mine. I don't know, because top-selling game in the UK over Black Friday? It's the Blue Bomber. Yes. And I don't know, God of War wasn't on that list, brother. So we'll see. I mean, listen, PlayStation 5 actually wasn't on that list. We're going to be talking about Black Friday numbers tomorrow on the Xbox Factor podcast. And you know what's crazy? I would have guaranteed the Series S would have just run away with it. It wasn't. Top selling was the Series X, ladies and gentlemen. Like, I'm blown away, but we'll get into that tomorrow. Today, folks, I have been reserved, in my opinion, because obviously the documentation that came out with Sony's complaints regarding the ABK deal were Wednesday. And obviously Thursday was no show, and Friday, I didn't want to take away from what we did. Friday, what we did was something special. We had over 15 guests, and it was what we were thankful for in gaming. And even though it may not get a lot of views, I'm very proud that we did that, because we had a lot of people roll through, and they gave us their personal thoughts and some of their personal history in gaming. And I thought it was a very, very heartfelt show. I like doing shows that are different like that. But today, folks, I told you in the tweet I'm going to be unhinged, and there's a reason for it. Look, folks, I'm not a business major, right? I'm a podcaster. I'm a retired New York City police officer. What do I know about business? I know I can tell you up and down about the penal law, no problem. I can tell you about the patrol guide that we follow as cops. I can tell you that back and forth. Can't tell you about business law, but I can tell you about right and wrongs and common sense. And some of the things that Jim Ryan are saying are so disgusting, and so the amount of lies coming out of this guy's mouth, coming out of Sony regarding this deal, I find it hard to really sit here as a grown adult and wonder how anyone would take this guy and PlayStation serious. They are the number one brand in gaming right now. They are number 7 in world brand recognition. Do you know where Microsoft's Xbox is in brand recognition right now, as of today, 56th in the world. PlayStation is number 7. It's in the top 10, folks, and not in the States, not in the UK, not in Brazil, in the entire planet. This is not hard to figure out. You don't even have to be a rocket scientist. Just go to Google and just do some searching. So it really bothers me. This is not coming from an Xbox. This is coming from someone that appreciates what Microsoft does for me. I'm a retired guy. I have one pension coming in. That's what sustains my household. And I earn that pension risking my life for 21 years. And I don't get cost of adjustment living as much as I should. So when bread, milk, and everything else goes up, I have to suck it. So what Microsoft does for me, and this is the real aspect of, let's be real here, folks. I know gaming is fun. I know gaming is a way to get away from the world that sucks sometimes. But we sometimes got to be a little realistic. And what Microsoft is doing with Game Pass allows me to potentially buy a God of War and buy a Bayonetta 3 on another console, because some games I don't have to buy because they're in Game Pass. And somehow or another, through bullshit regulation talk, and I'm talking about Jim Ryan, they have made that a bad thing. Somehow gamers or consumers are not important to Sony. What's important is Call of Duty and the $70, $76 or $43 that you pay here in New York for it. And as long as you're buying it on their brand. And we're going to get into it. But let's welcome the rest of the panel. Crazy Lou, you're here. You're not feeling well, but you still joined us. What's going on, brother?
Oh man, everything good. I'm a little bit under the weather, but yes, everything good, and just so happy to join you guys and talk about this. I mean, seriously, I've read through this a lot, and thanks to Justin Sane, which he did a podcast yesterday.
Yes, he did.
He also sent me something today just to read through it again. Oh man, and just reading through all that stuff again and again. Oh, I'm just laughing about it. It's insane. It's insane. Really.
Yeah, he did some extensive work on breaking down the very, very unique and varied points as to why this deal is good for gaming. May not be great for PlayStation, but the fact that PlayStation is still going to be around is just it's clear as day. It's just ridiculous. But listen, we're glad that you're here. Let's welcome in Fuzzy Belvedere. Fuzzy, I know you're going to have a lot to say. Obviously, you're going to get on your high horse of some of the quotes from Jim Ryan, specifically the last quote of the CMA document of basically confirming that no deal that Microsoft could offer Sony is good enough. And I think that in itself is not only balls of steel, but that should raise eyebrows for regulators, because what you're telling us is that this deal, you're number one. You're number one in the world. You're number one in console sales. You've broken 100 million console sales almost in every generation except for the PlayStation 3, which you just missed. And somehow, even though you're the market leader right now, you're leading console sales right now with the PlayStation 5. No one else is allowed to move against you, folks. This is like watching like something from the Lord of the Rings. Like the king does not want to relinquish the his position as number one. How is it that we see that the regulators don't? But welcome, brother. How you feeling?
Doing pretty good. Also a little under the weather, but man, this is one of those topics that I just love talking about. It's like as if Jim Ryan became a Karen. He wants to speak to the manager over at the CMA and the EU and FTC, and hey, he wants better service and better treatment as he feels he deserves. Not necessarily his customers, but PlayStation as a whole. Because they're integral to gaming and they deserve better. I can't wait to get into it. It's great to be here with you guys, man. Let's get into it.
yeah, absolutely. Listen, welcome, Web Dave. How you feeling, brother? Welcome back, my friend.
I'm doing great, Boom. Doing absolutely fantastic.
So if this is about competition, let us have competition.
I'm so ready for this argument today. This is going to be quite the discussion. And so awesome to be here. And Crispy, welcome to the show, sir. Glad you're here. And man, Casante back in town. Not only does he come back, but then he dominates the YouTube channels with being on 3 podcasts. He was all over the place, and
He was here, there, and everywhere, man. It was absolutely
It was
good stuff.
fantastic. Asante, we love you, man.
Yeah, I mean, I love him too. That's my brother from another,
He
but
is awesome.
unfortunately, I'm gonna have to take his knees. Sorry about that, brother. Take your knees because Sonic is creeping up, and and again, we're waiting until Christmas. I think that new Netflix show is gonna move a lot of units. And listen, take nothing away from God of War. It's closing in on 6 million units. That's amazing. There's no doubt about it. But I think there's gonna be a monster drop off. With the bad dad. I think that Sonic has a lot of left in the tank, and that Netflix show that's launching in just a couple of days, Sega knows what they're doing, and I'm glad that they do, because if it goes according to Hoyle, which is what I think it's going to go to, I'm going to get a pair of knees for Christmas. So let's see about that. Sorry to make you choke, Crazy Lou. Ladies and gentlemen, what I like to do with these shows, and one of the things I'm known for and I'm thanked for, and I appreciate that, is I don't just talk out my butt, right? Like I'll give you my opinion. Sometimes it's a little, some people may say, oh, it's too much Xbox for me. I'm not gonna. I'm an Xbox guy. I like my PlayStation. I love my Switch. PlayStation for me is number 3. That's what the use of it. I barely use it. I play for first party games, and that's it. Not that it's a bad console. It's quite a fine console, but I don't like Sony. I just don't like the way they do business. I don't like that I have to pay for everything after already paying for everything. It's crazy how people actually think that this is okay. And it's not because of Microsoft ruined. I've seen some pretty bad takes out there. Oh, Microsoft has ruined the industry, making gamers get games for free. Because no one buys games. You know how many games I bought so far? For Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo just this month? A crazy amount. But I couldn't do that if I had to buy everything. And there's so many games I'm playing right now that are in Game Pass. But I want to get into why I like doing these shows. Why I like bringing the evidence to the conversation. Why I like bringing written documentation so I don't get it wrong. So I'm going to read verbatim. Now, this comes the way of and this is Jim Ryan. Again, you folks, you tell me, we have almost 300 people here in the chat. What I'm about to read you is so preposterous, is so left-wing, is so ridiculous that I don't even understand how the person writing this down for the New York Times didn't just burst out his water and spit in Jim Ryan's face. Because this is crazy. Listen to this, folks. When speaking to the New York Times recently, Jim Ryan said that consumer choices, your choices, folks, my choices, crispy choices, everyone on this panel, our choices, will go away if Microsoft gets their way. Like Microsoft is throwing a temper tantrum. And I think it's the other way around, but let me continue. While also adding that Microsoft, listen to this, folks, historically tries to dominate the entire industry. Now, they might have done stuff like that in the 90s. Folks, if I checked my watch, and I'm no mathematician, today is November 28th, 2022. I don't know. That's 30 plus years ago when Microsoft were a bunch of a-holes back in the 90s, right? They got sued, and they're a better company. Not same company, not run by the same people. Sorry, we cannot judge people on their past. We have to judge what they're doing now. But this is where it gets crazy, folks. And this is what drives me insane with anger. This is the exact quote from Jim Ryan, folks. Lying, crying, dance moves, Jim Ryan. Yeah, that guy. This is what he had to say. Microsoft is a tech giant with a long history of dominating industries. It's highly likely that the choices gamers have today will disappear if this deal goes through. I'm sorry. What? Like, are you serious? Like, are we joking? Choices that we have today are somehow going to disappear. Poof, gone. Oh, you're talking about, like, if I want to, I don't know, play Vampire Survivors while at my sister-in-law's for dinner yesterday, I had my Logitech G Cloud, and I was playing it just fine. Or the other day when I was on the couch watching some of the the K-dramas that me and Mrs. Boom like to watch on the evenings, I was playing on my phone while using a controller. No, the choices are gone. If I want to play on my pewter while I'm downloading something or working on a show, Vampire Survivors right here, no problem. Anywhere that I have a screen, I can play games that are on Xbox Game Pass, and if I'm close enough to my console, I can stream from my console to whatever I'm using. No problem. Sony, on the other hand, makes you buy a PlayStation 5. Can anyone in the room, anyone on the panel, anybody in the chat, can anyone play God of War Ragnarok anywhere else but on a PlayStation 5? No. That's their business model. I'm not hating on it. I bought the $90 digital edition. It's sitting right in my PlayStation 5 right to my right. That's not a problem. But if I want to play God of War, I have to play on a PlayStation 5 or a PlayStation 4. So there are two consoles that you can play this, and that's it. When is it coming to PC? I don't know. 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, 12 months? I don't know. So the only entity right now that is dominating the industry and has dominated the industry for 20 freaking years is Sony PlayStation, or SIE. The one that continues to raise console prices, unprecedentedly, by the way. Raise games and make $70 games the standard. Charge us for $10 to play an upgraded version of a game that Microsoft allows for smart delivery for free. Should I keep going? $18 tier for PlayStation Plus Premium that doesn't give you new games day and date. Hell, they don't even give you good outside of Stray. What have they done since they launched it? Nothing. So what are we really talking about? But you see, that's not the only problem here, folks. That's not the only issue that enrages me. And it should enrage anyone that is a part of the CMA, the EU Commission, or the FTC, because right now Sony is using them to push this narrative of PlayStation good, Microsoft bad. And it's bullshit. I'm sorry. I don't like to curse, but I got to call BS when it's BS. I'm going to read you the last line of this document that I have in front of me. Of course, I couldn't open. Hold on just a sec. Now, this is the conclusion. This is Sony's conclusion to the CMA document that their lawyers drew up for them. This is the one that Hogue Law broke down, and which, by the way, if you missed his last 3-hour video where he went over everything, you should definitely check it out, because I've never seen Hogue Law more beside himself in anger and disappointment than this, because he calls Sony out left, right, and center. Here is the conclusion. This is whether this came from Jim Ryan, whether this came from SIE proper, whether this came from whoever. This is a statement that is representing SIE, Sony Interactive Entertainment, PlayStation. Here's the conclusion to this document that was made popular last week. The transaction threatens the gaming ecosystem at a critical moment. It would take an irreplaceable gaming franchise, Call of Duty, out of independent hands and combined it with Microsoft's highly successful gaming system, Xbox, leading multi-game subscription services with Game Pass, dominant PC OS with Windows, and leading cloud platform Azure. The only way to preserve the robust competition and protect consumers and independent developers is to ensure that that Activision remains independently owned and controlled, basically suggesting that this deal must be blocked. And that, folks, is my problem. The fact that they're suggesting that this deal somehow is going to hurt consumers is a lie. The fact that they are touting Game Pass is this ultimate destructor. Coming from the heavens above to destroy the world, part of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, is bullshit once again. If I recall correctly, when Game Pass was launched, many industry folks called it a failure from the start, including Sony's Jim Ryan, who called it unsustainable. This is not unsustainable. When asked if Sony was going to do it. And now they have their own 3-tier system, which, by the way, is nearly 16 million higher than Game Pass. But I first want to go to Crazy Lou on this, because Crazy Lou, I want you to reiterate the point that you talked about in the gaming in the green room. I think it's brilliant. We heard Sony in this document say our PlayStation Plus Premium is so much smaller than currently Xbox Game Pass. But there is something in the fine print there that Sony isn't mentioning, and then we're going to get to your opinion on what they had to say. Start with that first.
I mean, when they mentioned that, I was like, why don't they put their numbers down? They did not put the numbers down, but yet they did put Game Pass numbers, which is at 29 million, which that hasn't been confirmed by Microsoft, right? Yet? Or no? Well,
No,
either way, though,
not
it hasn't
yet.
been confirmed. Not yet. But they said that Game Pass is at 29 million, yet PS Plus, they did not put their numbers down, which is in total right now 45 million, which they said that I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yes.
They put the numbers out. Right now it's at 45 million. So I do not know why they did not mention that. So pretty much they're misleading with their information right there. I mean, I don't know since when 45 is more than 29. I could be wrong though, you know. But yeah, they're misleading right there with that information.
Well, listen, 45 to 29. I would say that both are success.
Yeah.
But to suggest that, and this is one of the fine points. I'll make it for you, and I want you to reiterate on. Then we'll get into what they had to say. What you said in the green room is that Sony is trying to separate PlayStation Plus as to be 3 separate things, meaning PlayStation Plus, Silver, and Premium. When it should be just one thing. It's one entity. When they talk about Game Pass, they don't say Game Pass for PC versus Game Pass, for console, or Game Pass, the top tier. It's just Xbox Game Pass. Xbox Game Pass doesn't matter where you're from, whether you play on PC, whether you play on your console only, or you play everywhere, is 29 million. How is it that Sony's allowed to turn around and somehow, and again, this is where we talk about they are lying to regulators.
Mm-hmm.
They are misleading regulators who may not have an actual idea of what goes on gaming, and that's the concern also, because how are these people expected to make proper decisions if they don't do the investigation? But please continue in regards to what your thoughts on Jim Ryan's statement and the final conclusion to this document. I want to get your raw take on this. Do you honestly feel, Crazy Lou, that Sony has, in this document and to many other regulators around the world, basically lied?
I'll be honest, yes, they have lied about a whole bunch of things. I mean, seriously, that's one of the points they lied about. They were talking about how Game Pass only has a lot more than PS Plus, which I was like, what? When I read that, I was like, wait, but I went online and said, let me search for this, because I remember a couple of weeks ago we talked about PlayStation's I think it was quarterly numbers, and I remember they mentioned that they lost 2 million subscribers, 2 or 3 million subscribers to the PS Plus. But yes, PS Plus is 45 million, and yet they were saying that Game Pass is a lot more than they do. I was like, okay, that's just wrong. I mean, seriously, just by that's just wrong.
Just to confirm what you're saying,
Yeah.
I'm at Statista.com.
Yeah.
Basically, it's a legitimate gaming and media site. And as of September 2022, folks, PlayStation Plus worldwide subscribers, 45.4 million. And to Crazy Lou's point, I'm just saying that I think, and I did finish school, I do have a diploma, and I do got some college credits, 45.4 is certainly much higher than 29. That again, not a mathematician, folks. That's 16.4 million more subscribers to the market leader than Xbox Game Pass. I'm just saying. But please continue.
Yeah, I mean, seriously. I mean, oh my God. just reading through all that stuff, but just the stuff that we're seeing, it's insane. And how they're trying to tell people that they're gonna get gamers away from that console. Why would people leave PlayStation?
Well, that's business. That's competition.
It's competition. And not only that, why would people leave their catalog behind? Because it's another thing, though. If I've been using PlayStation for like 5 or 10 years, right? I got my game catalog there. Why would I leave all that money I spent on that console to hop on a new system? Why? I mean, I got a PS5 right here, right behind me and stuff like that. I got my Xbox, which I buy all my games on my Xbox, but yet I do have my PS5 to play my games. And I've never, like I'm gonna ditch my Xbox for another console. I would never do that. That's insane. That's one thing. Another thing was the price rising. Oh my God. They said they were gonna raise the prices, right? But yet you guys came to raise the price like 3 months ago on the PS5 console. You did it first without Call of Duty. What?
And it's funny because they pulled a Fugazi. They didn't raise the price in the United States. You know why they did that? Because of Microsoft is close. They still got them by 5 or 6 million consoles compared 1-to-1.
Yeah.
The reason why they did it, and the Fugazi I'm talking about, is they included Horizon Forbidden West and charged you $550. So they made you buy the game. Just saying. Mm-hmm. There's your trickery.
Yeah. And also, I also found funny, which I was reading through it today, and I was just laughing. I mean, Sony seriously just told the competition that Call of Duty is way better than their exclusives. That's what they was like. What? I mean, if Microsoft was aiming for Kim right now, you just literally told them how important Call of Duty is to you, literally just by saying that it's way better than your exclusives. Oh my God. I mean, I was saying, good job, Sony, by saying that. Good job. I mean, I would never say that. I would never say that. Literally, Call of Duty is better than your exclusives. That's just bad, man. That's just bad. Just that's something I would not say. Not only that, they were talking about how they have that Microsoft has the best shooters out there, but yet they have a good company that can actually compete, which is Bungie. Because Destiny right now is out there alone. I mean, I don't know who competes against Destiny. Do you know any guys who compete against Destiny?
No, Destiny has it's updating, it's constantly doing and that's Sony owned. That they own that. Yes.
They own that. So why don't you get Destiny to do something for you? No, but again, what I see is they're trying to stop this deal and saying that they need to be like independent. Okay, so here's a question I want to ask though. They were independent a year ago. How were they doing? I mean, look at all the stuff that's going on while they're being independent, right? So do you think after this buy, wouldn't it just get better? Because seriously, they were doing really bad being independent. So why the heck would I want Activision Blizzard to be independent again with all the issues they had? Seriously, why? I'd rather them be bought and have somebody lead them and get better than how they were before. Yeah. I mean, that just goes out of the line. But when they said that,
like I said, I think what you're talking about is the human element that has been left out of the conversation. I think it's the most relevant and important one, as the fact that Microsoft is going to take over leadership duties of a company that was failing, a company that had people in there that had what was called the Bill Cosby room, which is unfucking believable. Pardon my French. I don't mean to curse, and I don't normally do, but when you think about what you're saying, he's a rapist, folks. He was charged for rape. He was charged for sexual misconduct, and somehow in the United States there was actually a room dedicated to a rapist, and that was known as the Boys Club room. Are we crazy to think that with Microsoft now in charge, that kind of shenanigans, everyone that was a part of that is going to be fired, is never going to work in this industry again? That's going, the workers that have been complaining about being under the leadership of the devil himself in Kotick, Bobby Kotick, that's not going to change. What about unionization? Never been done before in gaming. Microsoft's, that's right. We'll have unions, not a problem. Their voices matter. We want to make sure they're safe. Is anyone else doing unions? I don't know. Listen, we could be here for 17 hours, but unfortunately, everyone has something to do. Crazy Lou, you knocked it out of the park. I want to go to our special guest, Crispy Bomb. Crispy, you've been a little quiet because of work.
Can I ask one last question?
Oh yeah, please, by all means. Go
One
ahead.
last question I want to ask though. If the deal does not go through, because this is something that Sony is not thinking. If the deal does not go through, do you guys think the relationship they have with Activision Blizzard would it be
Oh
the
no,
same?
Nope.
dude, their contract
Destroyed.
is over in 2024, and that's it.
That's it.
I don't. Again, what they're doing is a scorched earth mentality.
Yep.
It's they don't care what the ramifications of the industry or anything. They just want what they want when they want it, and this scorched earth mentality is going to bring eyes to the. Like I said, listen. I don't have a bug in Jim's office, so I can't tell you what they're talking about. But rest assured, I can guarantee you that he has gotten calls from people of his ilk position within gaming and saying, Jim, what are you guys doing over here? Now you're bringing government eyes and ears to our industry. We were pretty much allowed to do what we want, and now because you're not getting your way like a spoiled brat, you have opened the door for governmental regulation in gaming that is now going to be really keeping an eye on what we do. Thanks, Jim. Thanks for that, brother. I really appreciate it. You've ruined the industry. He's literally ruined the entire industry because he's afraid that Call of Duty isn't going to be known for on PlayStation. Well, that's too bad. That's called business. You've been the market leader for 20 plus years. You know what? You used to make fun of Microsoft all the time. Now they're for real. Now they're here to play, and now you don't want to play in the sandbox anymore because you're not number one. It's ridiculous, folks. It's ridiculous. Crispy, like I said, you've been quiet. I know that you've been sitting back, you've been working, you haven't had a chance to really, drop your bars, if you will, as the kids say. What first of all, what are your thoughts on Jim Ryan's commentary on how your choices as a gamer are going to be taken away if this deal goes through? But more importantly, the fact that they basically suggest that anything outside of this deal being stopped is not good for the industry. Like they I think what they basically told us is that they don't care what Microsoft offers. No deal is going to be good enough. They want this deal. They want this merger stopped, and I find it crazy that the only one entity that has a problem with this deal is the number one person in gaming as we speak. It is mind-boggling, Crispy.
I mean, we are talking about gaming here. We're not. We all understand that you're going against a juggernaut. It's like going against Amazon or Apple. Well, Microsoft does that all day, by the way. So they look at Sony and they kind of, and you got that feeling when, the Azure server stuff started coming out and all this stuff, that they were like, you know what, we're all in this together. And only one company decides, nah, we're not in this. We're in this for ourselves.
Yes.
And there's an article that I recently read about how Microsoft suggested to Sony several times, because they do talk. A lot of people don't know that they do, but they absolutely do. And they suggested them to release their AAA bangers day and date in their service, and they will have more subscribers. And this is where the argument becomes null and void, because this is Sony's doing of choosing not to do that.
Yes.
Because I believe if they did that, they would be tenfold, regardless of number. Look, I said it just earlier. PlayStation Plus, now I don't even know anymore what is what. You know what I mean? And that's the point. But you have tiers in your own way, but you're pointing out and saying that there's really no tiers on Xbox, which there actually is. You know what I mean? And you're lumping it in. Okay, so let's be honest here. Like, don't be a hypocrite.
Yeah.
All right. And that's the problem with Sony. They continue to do this hypocritical thought process, and they're calling out things that they have done. And I sit here in front of everybody that's in the chat and right here and say, have you not watched Sony almost kill two of the most beloved gaming consoles of all time? They almost killed Nintendo, people.
Yep.
They
sure
almost did it. It wasn't Xbox, trust me. But when the Wii U came out, and that's the route they went, Sony absolutely destroyed them for that period of time. Okay? A lot of people, you want to ignore that? Fine. Okay, how about Sega?
Yep.
Dreamcast was, I'll tell you, far and away, much better console. Okay, as far as graphical fidelity, everything else. It even had an online multiplayer element that was just being started out, and it started with them. And they botched certain aspects, and Sony, go back to those commercials back then, they absolutely destroyed them.
Yeah.
Okay? So why should I look at his statements and not think that he's a hypocrite and not think that the company itself is a hypocrite?
Yep.
Well, what are you going to bring up? That Microsoft's worth trillions of dollars because of something totally different, which is called Windows? Okay? That they developed, they had things that they have developed and lost and failed. You know, like the Windows Phone, for example. They got their butt kicked.
Yep.
Okay? And they took the L and they walked away. Okay, but they gave it enough to it. The Mixer thing, you know, I still think they should have enveloped these new content creators rather than a Ninja or something like that. You know what I mean? Like they should have offered more to get these new content creators to get in there. They didn't do that. They took the L, they walked away. Okay, but they tried. They spent, you know, almost $1 billion on it. You know what I mean? And that's what Microsoft's saying, we're not trying anymore. We're just going to do it because we believe gaming should be, you know, an ecosystem that, you know, people can play where they want. And, you know, then you see this article that Sony offered. No. But did you allow Game Pass on there? You know, nobody's asking that question. You know what I mean? Why wouldn't they do that? They'd be like, hey, you can have PlayStation here and we can have, you know, Game Pass there. Okay, cool. But guess what? You ain't offering no freaking day and date games anyway.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
Why the hell would anybody buy that? I'm sorry. Like, you know what? Unless you're obligated to use that to get online, by the way, you can play free-to-play games on Xbox right now. Yeah, you don't have to pay nothing.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that. My buddy's doing it right now. You know what I mean? Like, he's been doing that for a while. Once I told him, I was like, dude, you can play Apex for free. You can play Fortnite for free. He's been doing it, you know, and now he's got money. Now he's going to get, you know, Game Pass again. He was a PlayStation guy, dude. He doesn't understand what they're doing. Dude, how are you going to defend the fact that you have raised the price by yourself because you are the market leader to $70 for games? Okay. And then your direct competitor who you say you don't have an answer for, because that's what you just did, Jim Ryan. You just said you don't have an answer for, continues to sell at $60, continues to sell consoles at a loss of up to $200. Okay. And also still not winning. And you're going to sit here and act like what I just said makes total logic. No, it doesn't.
No.
It's absolutely horrible. Okay? And this is for all you PlayStation fanboys that might be just sitting there listening. And all I got to say is they're the king of the world until it don't benefit you no more. Well, guess what? It does benefit me because I've been an Xbox gamer for a long time. And I was a PlayStation gamer probably far more than anybody that would even talk about it. I was probably playing PlayStation before they were born. And you're going to sit here and tell me that PlayStation deserves the benefit of the doubt? Get out of here, dude.
Yeah.
That is BS. They have almost destroyed multiple gaming companies, if not done so. Okay. And you're going to sit here and defend them and say that this isn't fair for competition. Yeah, it is. Because right now, I ain't going to say that, you know, Xbox comes out with a better game than God of War Ragnarok. I ain't going to say that. It looks great. You know what I mean?
Well, they sold nearly 6 million copies since it launched a couple of weeks ago. I don't know how anyone would suggest that game isn't a quote unquote banger and a console seller. You know what I'm saying? Like it bugs me out how you are talking about it only being about Call of Duty, but your own first party and that's the thing that's pretty. Isn't this suspicious though? Normally, right? Normally, we see Sony out there pushing the numbers. And after the 5 millionth copy being sold of God of War, that's something that think about how amazing that is for Sony. They sold nearly 6 million copies, but usually after the third or fourth million in X amount of weeks, you hear something from Sony. They sold 5 million copies in 2 weeks, and we didn't hear anything from Sony. And that's because, once again, they're being disingenuous. They don't want to look like they're winning. But all you have to do is do the research. Look at the numbers, folks. Listen, we can all have opinions. You could lie. I could lie. Crazy Lou could lie. But you know what you can't lie about? Numbers. You can't lie about numbers when they're printed for you to read. You can exaggerate numbers, but you cannot. MBD is not going to lie about a number for Sony. If they're saying that they sold 6 million copies, they sold 6 million copies, right? Regardless of whether or not that's bundled in a console or actual physical digital, it doesn't matter. It's still a copy of the game that has been sold. And the fact that they sold that many first-party games, a first-party game that many in that short amount of time, they would be okay without Call of Duty. They would be perfectly okay, but they're not happy with having to work hard to potentially bring back a SOCOM and spend it. See, that's the thing that annoys me. Microsoft takes all of the investment risk with Game Pass, which Sony called to be a failure from the start of it, right? They said, "No, this never was. This isn't going to work. It's unsustainable." They took all the risk, and now they have the reward because Game Pass has nearly 30 million subscribers. And from 2017 to now, that's still 5 years, folks. That's still 5 years. They probably took losses up front. This is just complete crazy talk, but please continue.
Well, and that's where you go and look at it and you say, the retrospect of their thought process is, let us say stuff that makes us look like we're weak.
Yep.
And
exactly.
The problem with that is that anybody that at least knows something about gaming knows that PlayStation's been a king for a long time. Yes, Nintendo, and a lot of people ignore this. Nintendo, as of now, is a console sales leader, but they are not revenue leader.
That's Sony. That's SIE.
Well,
yes.
Well, that's why everybody's like, oh, why are they making all these games as a service games? We all know why. The smart ones know why.
Yeah.
Because they don't have a choice. And that's the point. But at the same time, if the complaints about subscription and this and that, the mic drop and walk away and say, release your games in your subscription service.
There you go.
And I mean, let's be honest. Like, for me, I might buy a PlayStation 5 because of that.
Yeah, and you probably would be because your value, because what's happening right there, Crispy, is PlayStation would be understanding that your wallet has limitations. They would be respecting your capabilities of buying games like Microsoft does with Xbox Game Pass. People say, "Oh no, it's just a business; they don't respect it." That's stupid. Yes, they do respect it, and that's why they give you so much for your dollar. Because everyone should be a part of the conversation, regardless of what financial station you currently have. I'm sorry. I think to suggest otherwise is just dumb.
It is dumb, and it's also ridiculous to think that people shouldn't be allowed to enjoy gaming because of how much they make. And I think that's an absolute ridiculous thought process. And as of now, we've seen the statements about Microsoft and how much they're losing on selling these consoles. You know what I mean? And how much effort they're putting into having goodwill. And you know what? Could be corporate PR, but it also could be like a couple gamers sitting at the top of, sitting right next to Satya. And that's why he said, let us compete, because they are good at multiplayer. You can't deny that. You know what I mean? And what is Activision multiplayer? You know what I mean? But then you have other IPs that nobody's talking about. And I think if PlayStation actually sat down, which I don't think they're doing, I think they're throwing mud at the wall, or throwing the pasta at the wall and seeing if it sticks.
Yep.
And right
indeed.
now, like, it's a bad look. They think that they are above everybody, and I don't like that look. And that's not the PlayStation I used to know. But also at the same time, if you look back at what they've done, they bought huge companies, okay, for their game.
Do you remember when they purchased Lycosis, the company that was making all of those original PlayStation 1 games that were amazing? That was a publisher at the time.
You can look at like, did anybody bat an eye when they basically bought anime? Anybody?
Pretty much.
Crunchyroll.
Yeah,
Crunchyroll
they
right?
literally have cornered the market in anime. That is correct. Yes.
Okay, so just because Microsoft's successful in other things and they're trying to put a foothold, because that's what any good company would do. You're gonna spend that R&D budget and just sit there and just look at it and be like, oh, it's fine. No. That R&D budget sometimes goes into actually developing games. Like, who's not looking forward to seeing what Hellblade 2 is? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's a budget, man. And that's a lot of money spent. And you know what? Yeah, they're hoping that people will subscribe to Game Pass. I mean, that's the only logical step. But they're not being assholes about it. Excuse my language. But seriously. You know what I mean? Like, that game looks tenfold above anything I've seen. I don't care what. Gears, whatever, dude. Like that, what they've done and what I think they're going to do with that game is going to be absolutely monumental for the next generation of gaming. And I think it starts with Unreal, and I think that's why you're going to start hearing more and more Microsoft studios moving to Unreal. And that's where you go and say, what is next? But instead, we're talking about a deal that should have been done, because, you just let all these other companies do whatever the hell they want in their spaces, streaming on TV, movie, buying IP like no other. Like, what happened to the scrutiny with the Disney Fox deal? I mean, come on. They literally bought so much. Like, if you really look at it, the IP involved, it's not even Microsoft's deal with ABK is not even close. The only reason you could even bring up that it's anywhere near that is because of the Sierra deal when Activision bought out Sierra. And that's where you go with your pitfalls and everything else. So, I mean, dude, we're talking stuff that has nothing to do with Microsoft. So what's your argument? Your argument is that we're hurting. I mean, come on. You can do the same stuff. Your gaming budget is probably huge because your company is really relying on gaming at this point. Why aren't you doing these? Why aren't you investing in the fact that your subscription service could be great if you drop day and date? Why can't you do that? And that's always my question. Like, they're like sitting there like, I'm the sheep and I'm fine. And then all of a sudden the wolf comes out. You know what I mean? It's almost like I feel like Sony's waiting to like be the wolf again. You know what I mean? They're just oh, everything hurts. No, we can't do that. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, it's a load of BS. I'm sorry, folks. At the end of the day, again, remember, we're just podcasters, right? We're not investment gurus. I can't give you the skinny on what to invest in. I can't tell you about corporate lore. I can tell you about common sense, folks. And I think right now, what Crispy and Crazy Lou have already dropped down along with myself is pretty common sense apparent that Sony does not want to lose the number one position. They are basically throwing a temper tantrum. That is ultimately what they are doing. And I just hope that when the actual CMA second tier sees this, and the CMA and of course the EU Commission and the FTC for that matter, Microsoft is willing to give up the concessions. Now, I don't know how better of a deal you can offer than 10 years. Like Phil Spencer said in an interview, there's no such thing as a forever deal. He goes, that's just silly. And in business, he's 100% right. Have you ever heard of a forever deal? Oh no, we're going to put X whatever on your platform forever. The only other thing that I could see that would be a concession, which I don't think Microsoft should agree to, and that is to put to put Call of Duty on PlayStation Plus Premium. And the reason my reasoning is for that is because they're not making the $70 billion investment. They have no right to be able to tell Microsoft where they can put their IPs that they paid for, legally bought. And here's the other thing. Here's the other kicker to that. Does Sony put their own IP day and date into PlayStation Plus Premium? No, they do not. So why should Microsoft put a first-party IP into theirs? It just doesn't make any sense. Fuzzy, I wanna reiterate. Obviously you've heard what everyone says. We're gonna get your opinion, but one of the things that was very interesting that the CMA used as a talking point. Sony actually used this as a talking point. They don't consider Nintendo to be a competitor. They're not a part of the market. Because they make family-friendly games, they can't be compared to Microsoft or Sony. They're their own thing. It's the same ideology as, well, Game Pass is the thing, but PlayStation Plus, well, we're going to break it down into 3 different tiers that make sense for our argument. Here's the thing that's interesting. Black Friday, the 2 titles that dominated sales, folks, besides what you're seeing in front of you, which warms my heart for a lot of reasons, because A, I'm a Sonic stan, and B, I'm going to get some knees. But the other game that apparently doesn't matter to the conversation, Call of Duty's out there, God of War is out there, all of these Gotham Knights are out there, all of these incredible experiences that came out in 2022 are there. But do you know what made the most money, that sold the most copies, both digitally and physically, this Black Friday? Besides Sonic Frontiers, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, a remake from the Wii U that launched 2 years after the Switch. I think it came out in 2018, if I'm not mistaken. I'll confirm it in a second. Think about that for a second. God of War, Call of Duty, all of these amazing big AAA games are out there, but somehow the Nintendo Switch exclusive sold just as much or more than Sonic and everything else, but somehow, Fuzzy, Nintendo, they don't count. They're not a part of the industry. They're their own thing. They walk to their own drum. You see, that is what annoys me, because that is not true. Nintendo has been around double the years, maybe even triple the years, since they've been around since 1985, since the NES. The Xbox came out in 2001. I mean, folks, again, I'm not a mathematician, but just do the math. How much more time they've been in the industry? They're not a part of the industry. Somehow they're in their own country. They're on their own island. They don't count. They're not looked upon. This is crazy talk.
Well, for me, Sony would be the ultimate politician, and I don't want to get into politics or anything like that. But it's a lot of spin. Like, see here, look here, but don't look. Do as I say, not as I do.
Yes.
It's funny to me that they don't want to count Nintendo, except for when it counts in their favor, let's say. So if it's one of those things where if Xbox was to push back on, like, let's say a Final Fantasy, although I'm not sure if 7's on the Switch, but I know with some of the other Final Fantasies and other, Square Enix products, they're on the Switch, even though they're not on the Xbox. So they would probably use Nintendo for their, to favor their argument. But outside of that, oh no. They're just this cute little box that little kids play in the corner. No, let's not pay attention to them. But Xbox said that they want to put Call of Duty over there. No. See, they don't. That doesn't fit the narrative for Nintendo, because Mario, Jim Ryan is great at what he's trying to do. This whole scorched earth deal, while frustrating and annoying for some, it's probably exactly what the executives above him over at Sony Corp want, because they know they're on a ticking clock as far as if this deal gets done, then they're going to have to really light a fire under these games as a service to have that recurring revenue, as opposed to relying on a game that takes 4 or 5 years to produce, and then have its tremendous sales for the first year, and then 6 months to a year later, hopefully have decent sales on PC, which even that seems to be a little less enlightening for them than originally thought. Like Miles Morales didn't do too well on PC, but it's like nobody really wants a game that many years after. Like some of the games will sell with years in between because it's the PlayStation guy now has a pretty decent rig. Or maybe it's somebody that's like, you know what? Let's see what my pretty decent rig can do for this game compared to what it was like on PS4. And they're, making sure that they have all the bells and whistles in the programming so that way it looks simply amazing. Like if you thought it was amazing on the PS4 or PS5, when you see it on PC, it's going to be, eye-watering, goodness in comparison. So all of this spin that they're doing, the fact that they don't want Nintendo to count, at least in this particular argument, goes to show that they are just using or cherry picking, I guess is the key word, cherry picking stuff that benefits them. Much like Louis was saying earlier, they don't want to talk about the 45 million that they have for PS Plus. They just want to talk about the 29 million. Like if you talk about a number that the other guys have, but you don't mention your number, and you act like that number is like such a big number, then people
they act
just
as if it's
focus on that.
irrelevant. And again, it's one of those things. Don't look in the right hand, but look in the left hand. 29 million here, but we have 45 million here. It's like I said again. What is so frustrating here, Fuzzy, is the fact that as just gamers, not money hatting investors,
Right.
not people with documentation that says that my word is better than yours, just regular people.
Mhm.
Who can go and do a Google search could find all of this information for them at the ready.
Yeah.
And the fact that they did, again, wouldn't a regulator be aggravated or upset? Like, wait a second, they're talking about that 29 million. They invested in this back in 2017. They're trying to compete with the head dude right now, who still has 45 million PlayStation Plus subscribers. What are we talking about here? How is this not a freaking problem?
Well, you would hope that the regulators are doing their homework, and it's hard to say because even in the U.S., it seems like the lobbyists rule things more than the politicians relying on their associates to do some of the research for them. Like they get the list of talking points and that's what they'll go with, type of deal. So the investment that they make as far as research is whatever their staff will provide for them, or sometimes whatever the lobbyists will provide. And considering Jim took a couple of flights over there, all of their kids probably have PS5s for this holiday season. I mean, you would think that they would not be influenced by such trivial things, but obviously it seems like some of this is working. And yeah, there's supposed to be an independent group that's supposed to do the second look type of deal. But if you have this one loud voice, and if anything we've learned, the squeaky wheel gets the grease kind of thing. If Jim Ryan keeps on yelling to the moon or whatever in the corner over here, they're going to eventually listen. They may not necessarily believe everything he says, but it's going to keep them distracted enough where even though Microsoft has these bullet points and showing everything that they can counter, but this guy keeps on pointing out other stuff. And it's like, by the time they get around to, debunking that, it's like he's already on, page 63 of something completely left field now. So it's almost like it's a bait and switch or, distraction action type of deal that he's putting out there for the regulators. But you would hope that at some point they start to realize, oh, we're being bamboozled by this guy. He's just talking to talk and either trying to run out the clock or trying to stall something or whatever the case may be. But I hate to say it, I don't have much faith in regulators being, on the up and up as far as whether it be the research or whether it be their staffing doing the research for them. A lot of times, like I said, lobbyists or Jim Ryan flying out there himself, handing out PS5s like they're candy, possibly. I think a lot of times things like that will
Which would be
probably,
considered a
you know,
bribe. I'm just saying that, if you're handing me a PlayStation 5 and you're on the regulation board, I don't know. That seems a little illegal, but
yeah. Well, there's so many loopholes and things. It's like, oh, well, where does your Mr. Regulator, where does your cleaning service staff stay? I have they're going to receive something that they're going to have to deliver to you, type of thing. So I know I'm going left field here with it, but I would not be
But you
surprised
know
if there's some
something? I'm
other
sorry to
stuff like
say
that going on.
there's room for what you're talking about. Like I said, I said this from the beginning, and we did a whole podcast on it with someone taking money. I'm sorry to say that this is how I feel.
Yeah.
The CMA and the EU have been known to do things that they got in trouble for. They made decisions based on potentially some hand in cash in the pocket, and I'm sorry that's something that has to be considered.
Well, the funny thing is, when it's all said and done, I think it's the EU more so than the CMA. They're going to have to kind of rely or use Microsoft to hedge one of the other battles that they have with the duopoly.
Yes,
with
yep,
the whole Google and Apple thing. But that's a whole nother story. But I just hope common sense prevails. I don't have all the confidence in that, but let's hope it prevails, and either they come to some concessions or see it for what it is and be like, all right, Jim, we heard your BS, move along, that we're approving this, or we're not going to contest this. There's nothing to contest. It's like either toughen up or sharpen your swords.
How about you just invest, and invest some of those millions of dollars in SOCOM,
exactly,
in Resistance Fall of Man, or make a new Killzone, make a better,
honestly,
make a better product.
Honestly, I think they don't even have to necessarily make a better product. I think just bringing those IPs back, even if they were, graphically, with current technology or up to current standards, but like some of the older gameplay that's been reiterated on year and year and so forth and improved upon now, I think they could still have something that would garner enough attention that they could continue to build and work on from here moving forward. It's just, I think they're, I hate to say the words fat and happy because I got a few pills I can lose myself, but it's like
no, but
they're content where they are.
But what you're saying isn't insulting. The gist of it, the quick definition, so it's understood what Fuzzy trying to reiterate here is the fact that Microsoft got their teeth kicked in.
Yeah.
They got their teeth kicked in because they started 2013. They started the Xbox One generation on the wrong foot. The wrong people were in charge. Words were said that you can't take back, and it cost them. It cost them an entire generation. Sony did what any good competitor would do. They innovated. They doubled down on what they were good on. Right? They were good at first party, over the shoulder, third party games that made them popular with the PlayStation 3. They took it and they turned the dial to 11. Right? They did what good competitors are supposed to do. And Sony won the generation by leaps and bounds, not even close, more than 2-1, and in some regions like the UK 5-1. And whose fault was that? Was that our fault? Was that Sony's fault for putting out good product that Microsoft could match? No, that was Microsoft's product for not putting out good product that could match what Sony was putting out. And now here we are in this new generation. A big deal is about to happen. And that big deal is going to change the way we play and pay for games. And as a consumer who has limited funds, that has to make financial choices based on what's more important as a game. As before, I would just work overtime. Well, Game Pass works for me. But Dave, we got to get to you, and I want to bring you into the conversation for a lot of reasons. But let me catch up on the super chats. We got a ton of them. Highlander 001 drops a very generous $5 super chat, and the first one of the day. He says, "Hi, Mr. Boomstick and panel. Jim Ryan's talking about how they cannot beat Call of Duty has had an effect. Some developers have left Sony Studios," and I'm wondering if that we are going to start hearing about that, where some internal former members of some of their studios and like, I was working there and I was disgusted that they said that my product isn't good enough than Call of Duty. You're going to start to hear that. I'm interested to keep that conversation alive. Corbini Gaming drops a very generous $5 super chat, and welcome back, Corbini. Thanks so much for being here. He says the Xbox Series X topped the Black Friday sales chart this year with Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. No PlayStation consoles made an appearance in the top 5. Wow. And that's saying something. That there's something to be said that might, people are tired of Sony's stuff. Brett Bingham, good generous friend of the program, who's been a channel member for a month, he drops a very generous $5 super chat and says Jim Ryan being a straight up Karen. I nominate that Dale be the male equivalent to a Karen. Jim Ryan is straight up a Dale. I love it. That's good stuff. Highlander 001 drops an additional $5 super chat and says, I see this going to court. This will make Epic versus Apple look like the people's court. Sony's dirty laundry will be aired out. Microsoft has the proof. Yeah, in fact, if this that's the thing that's pretty interesting, is I don't think they know or they don't care. Again, they have a scorched earth mentality that if this does go to court, all of Sony's dirty laundry is going to be out there for everyone. I mean, we know it, but I think it'd be out there for everyone to see, and it's really going to put Sony, SIE proper, in a really bad look. Corbini Gaming drops an additional $5 super chat and says Modern Warfare 2 selling so well alongside the Series X is probably an effect of the Microsoft and Activision Blizzard acquisition article, is what an article says, and it could be true. But also I think that in a lot of places like Target, they were offering Call of Duty for free when you bought a console. So they don't have the quote unquote marketing deal that Sony has with Activision, because that's still good to 2024. But there's no law that says Microsoft can't eat the Call of Duty game price of $65 and give it away as a bonus for buying their console. And I think that could be one of the reasons why the console sold so well and why there's so many more Call of Duty sales. It could be very well. Sony does that all the time with their consoles. Sith Lord drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, I lent my friend some money so he could buy a PlayStation 5. Said he would pay me back by buying my own PlayStation 5 by March. Am I getting a good deal? I mean, if he's your friend and you're just lending him the money, I would imagine that he hopefully will return the kindness that you showed him to get your PlayStation 5 in March. Hopefully that in fact is the case. John Wolf, good friend of the program, drops a $5 super chat and says it would be nice if Jim Ryan got called out by all gamers unanimously, just like Donnie D did back in the Xbox One days. But you know how it is, excuses. Yes. You know what? Let's bring you into the conversation. You're a banker. You're a gamer. You also have a keen eye. What are your thoughts of what everyone has said and what Jim Ryan has said specifically?
Jim.
Why so serious?
Jim is so off the chains with his argument that it's gonna destroy gaming as we know it. The world is over, the sky is falling, and gaming will cease to exist if this deal goes through. Total BS. Total BS. And the deal's going through, folks. Just so you know, the deal's going through. There's nothing that's going to stop it. Nothing. The talk of the I guess lawsuit possible pending, that's actual, they set those things up so they can try and get concessions, and that's the way it works.
If Microsoft wasn't willing to budge on this, Dave, and obviously, listen, if you don't know who Web Dave is, you should. Not only does he do incredible interviews on his YouTube channel, not only is he a major part of this incredible community that we have, he's also in the banking business. So he understand that when he does say things, he may not have a one-to-one of what's going on with this deal, because none of us really do. We can only go what's out there, but you do speak the truth. You do bring up some great points, but I'd like you to continue these points.
Well, it's financial sense for the big part. It doesn't make any for Microsoft not to want the Call of Duty on PlayStation, at least at the existing time, at the current time, and that's why they offered that amount out there. But Sony has got themselves with their back against the wall. They've got themselves in a pickle, is basically the best way to say it. They are kind of down and out as far as their logic. They think that by causing a stink, by raising all these problems, by throwing everything at the regulators, and trying to win over the public perception that that Microsoft is bad and will destroy gaming, that it's going to buy them some time. And honestly, I don't think it is. It just does not seem that there is, and there's nothing that they have said that has been a super case closing argument that's like, oh wow, I didn't see that, or oh, now I understand. Nothing, absolutely nothing. And they're grasping at straws, and they're just trying to throw everything at it to make it stick. And Ryan is just, oh my god, that his comments, especially that last thing, Boom, that you talked about being on fire about it, it is so frustrating that that there are people out there that actually buy this crap. That's the thing, is that there are people out there that, like, well, if Jim said it must be true. No, if Jim said it, it must be a lie, is what we're
Yes.
finding. Because that's what he's doing, is he's trying to manipulate the market to his advantage, because they got caught with their pants down. They got up against the wall. They just don't have what it's going to take for the next generation, and they know it. They know that Game Pass is going to clean their clock if they don't do something about it and try and stop the deal. The best thing for them is if the deal gets stopped in their eyes, because they think, okay, cool, the deal's stopped, so we'll be able to continue what we're doing. I don't think that after their contracts are up, I don't see why ABK would even want to carry on, because by that time, their contract doesn't have like an automatic extension.
No, they have to renegotiate.
Exactly.
And at that point, yes, why would Activision Blizzard King or Activision proper ever want to deal with Sony again? Like,
oh yeah,
why? I actually have heard people argue against that. Oh no, but Sony's number one. Are you kidding me?
yeah, exactly.
You think that matters?
Not only that, they also said this weekend, was it, that they were going to put the gloves on and take the fight? Activision said
Activision came out and did say that. Yeah, they sure did. Yeah,
because they know what's the big, because if Microsoft got the same kind of leverage that Sony has now, as far as complete, then Sony wouldn't necessarily have the number one position to hold over anybody's head anymore.
That is correct.
And as Microsoft continues to grow with a better working model of consumer friendliness than Sony has, that's going to continue to grow their brand, and they are going to be able to take up market share that they don't have at this time, because it's eventually going to be, if Sony doesn't play by what Microsoft wants them to do, because Microsoft's giving them a chance to kind of hang in there and get their feet set, and maybe take their stuff in a different direction. But if Sony keeps, let's face it, pissing people off the way they're doing and the way they're acting, they are going to burn bridges that they won't be able to build on their own, because if they don't build those multiplayer bridges themselves now, they don't have a multiplayer. They bought Destiny, but even then, when Destiny's agreement was, well, we know that if you're going to do that, you're going to need, we're going to need Microsoft to continue and PC to continue to grow. So that's why they had those conditions set in place before they purchased them. So it's right now it's all a shell game. It's all kind of a, let's just see what happens. But when it does happen and the deal does go through, and Sony sees, oh crap, this is the way it's going to be, they may be going back to Microsoft going, hey, about those 10 years, are we still gonna get those? Is that still on the table, buddy? Who knows? And Microsoft may be cool and say, sure, we'll do that. But I don't know. And if the deal comes through and they try and give them concessions to stop putting the deal, or stop putting, or not allow the Call of Duty on Game Pass, then if that then Microsoft I think will go in and try and sue. I think then
Yeah.
they'll bring a lawsuit.
But you know what? Like I said, Jess Corden was making great points.
Mhm.
He said that in the history, and actually, Hoglo talked about this also. In the history of doing business, you've never seen one of these governmental institutions come out and say that company A that purchased this has to put that on another person's platform. Like you didn't see them tell Disney, oh, if you got to put Infinity Gauntlet on Netflix and make that day and date from your own service. You didn't see that. They had a deal with Netflix, sure, but Netflix closed down the deal, and what did Marvel do? They waited on the characters, and all those characters are coming back. It's never been done in game. Ladies and gentlemen, listen. At the end of the day, here's the thing: the deal is going to go through. Microsoft has already said they're going to give up concessions, and I'm sure a lot of the concessions are going to have to do with nothing. Have nothing to do with gaming. It's going to be on the back end of governmental handshakes with Azure and what it costs certain countries to pay Microsoft. They're going to lower the cost, the entry cost over the. There's going to be some behind the scene deals that we'll never know about to get the deal through. This deal is not anti-competitive at all.
Nope.
Sony is number one. Microsoft, depending on what market you look at, is either fourth or fifth. Okay, they have no thumbprint when it comes to mobile gaming. Okay, so that's not a problem with there. They have very little. Yes, their OS Windows is used for making games. Yes, no big deal. When it comes to PC market, they don't really have a thumbprint either. Right, the Windows Store, the Microsoft Store, no one cares about on PC. And they're still, if you consider the top three, which the three gaming consoles right now, Nintendo, PlayStation, and Xbox is third. They're not going to go from 63rd to first overnight. It's not going to happen, even with Call of Duty. So it's a load of BS. I'm sorry to say. Let me catch up on the Super Chats, and then we're going to get everyone out of here. Raiden Blade, who's been a channel member for 1 year, drops up £2 Super Chat and says, he asks Jim Ryan, are you scared Xbox will do to you due to Sony what they've done to Xbox? And the question is, probably. Raiden Blade also says this after dropping an additional £2 Super Chat. Jim, did you hear that ABK is ready to go to court? And he also drops another $2 Super Chat. Deal, get blocked, Sony loses big, ABK, no more deals. Yeah, 100%. We have Saron Grant drops a £1 and 79 cents Super Chat. Says all regulators will have the same conclusion as Brazil. I believe that. Brett Bingham drops a very generous $10 Super Chat and says, I hear Jim keeps flopping on who has more subs, Sony or Xbox. The real question becomes at this point about PlayStation Plus, is Sony lying to investors or to the Trade Commission? Both carry big penalties, and that's something to be considered for sure. Eternal Shaddai, who's been a channel member for 7 months, says, good afternoon, everyone. What the CMA will ask Jim Ryan is, why don't you do like Xbox by adding first-party games to your service equal to Game Pass? And they'll probably cry and say, we can't afford to do that, which that's a lie. Gerald Mack, who's been a channel member for 1 year, drops a $5 Super Chat and says, shout out to Double Barrel Gaming and the panel. The sad part is Sony nor the regulators care for the people suffering under Activision. And that's another big problem. Just another big problem, I think. Tom from Toonami drops a very generous $5 Super Chat and says, people seeing through Sony's BS, probably why the PlayStation 5 wasn't in the top 5 for Black Friday, and X was in the top 5, though people don't like rats. Yeah, he's really painting Sony into a bad corner, and that's just my opinion. Tom from Toonami drops an additional $5 Super Chat and says, Microsoft is soon to be offering concessions to the EU, breaking from it's breaking. Oh, okay. The breaking news, folks, from Reuters, I think that's how you pronounce it, could shorten the EU phase 2 if accepted. That's pretty interesting. If you're on Twitter, brother, drop that into my DM. I gotta read that story. Raiden Blade drops an additional £2 Super Chat and says, after deal, Embracer Studios 12 to 14 months will be Xbox Game Studios. Some of them probably will. I think there's some deals that are being held off right now as we speak until this deal is done. Drawn TJ, generous friend of the program, drops a $5 super chat and says, "Good morning, guys. Sony is being a little kid. Yeah, they're being a spoiled brat, no doubt about it. But
Hey,
let's
Boom.
get everyone out of here.
There is
We
one
had
more
over.
you missed.
Which one is that?
He just gave $1 and he
Oh.
didn't say anything.
Oh, okay.
Couldn't
So
pronounce it.
let me see if I could find it. Hold on just a second.
3 up.
Okay, yes, I got it. It's Cabaret.
I didn't want to pronounce it. Sorry.
Okay, it's Cobrates, I think it is. Drops a very generous $1 super chat. Hey, listen, brother, that's $1 that I didn't have before, and we appreciate it. By all means, welcome to the show. I've never seen that name before, so if you're new and you're just finding us, thank you so much for the generosity. But more importantly, thank you for checking out the show. We definitely super appreciate that. Crazy Lou Gaming, sell your brand, brother. Talk about the Xbox International Podcast, where they can check that out. And more importantly, follow the crazy one on social media.
Oh man, thank you, Boom. Such an awesome show today. It was a lot of fun, man. Really, it was. And man, oh man, where you can find the crazy one? You can find me on Twitter, where I say good morning and everything at Crazy Louis Gaming. You also can find me here at noon, hanging out with these awesome gentlemen at 12 p.m. Xbox Lunch Break Special. Also, you can find me on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. ET on the Xbox International Podcast with my brother, Silent Cypher Sour Blow, and Mr. Big Plume. And also, we're going to have a pretty cool guest on the show, which we will announce later on during the week.
Absolutely, brother. I can't wait to check that out. Thank you for being here, even when you're not feeling well. Crispy Bomb, sell your brand, brother. Where are you going to be else? Where else are you going to be this week? I know you got 2 shows coming up, not only Primetime Gaming, but you're going to be somewhere else. And more importantly, where can people reach out to you on social media?
Gentlemen, always a pleasure. Shout out to the chat. I mean, awesome takes. Love it. At Crispy Bomb on Twitter, Crispy Bomb 28 Xbox Live. You can find me on Retro Renegades tomorrow night, 7 p.m. We got Primetime Gaming, 7 p.m. Wednesday. And, of course, on the next podcast, 8 p.m. Thursday. We'll see you then.
Thank you, brother. Definitely appreciate you being a part of today's show. Love that you had a chance to come on after your busy week last week. And can't wait to talk about this, Wednesday. Like I said, he confirmed it with me last week. ACG will be joining us on Wednesday evenings, Primetime Gaming. We have a lot to get into. So there's a big rumor, folks, that Microsoft is skipping the Game Awards. This comes the way of Jez Corden of Windows Central. I'm going to break that down, what that means, because I was hoping that Microsoft were going to really blow us away with their first-party games, but there's some suggestions from Jez that they may be taking the L, or giving the knee, if you will, to make sure that they don't look like the more dominant Xbox that Sony is propping them up to be. But we'll see if that happens. Obviously, let's get into Fuzzy Belvedere. Sell your brand, brother. Talk about the best place for all and anything racing on your YouTube channel. But more importantly, where can people find you on other shows and on social media?
Just want to thank you for having me on. It was awesome being on here with you guys and everybody interacting with us in the chat, and those will catch us later on replay. For anybody that wants to hear my ramblings on anything gaming, just follow me on pretty much any social media platform at Fuzzy_Belvedere or Fuzzy Space Belvedere, primarily on Xbox Live with the space underscore with PlayStation and most social media stuff. And then on YouTube, same Fuzzy_Belvedere. And then later on tonight at 10 p.m. on Double Barrel Gaming, on Fun Speculations channel on FSP at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. You can find me, Mav, Psychonauts, and Jasper talking about pretty much all 3 platforms and the latest games coming out for this week. By the way, I hope to see all of y'all playing Insurgency Sandstorm this week on Game Pass. And then catch me on Friday morning, 10 a.m. on Breakfast with Boom right here on this channel. And then later that evening, Xbox Ultimate on Fun Speculations channel. And then the Shop Podcast Saturday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. Arizona time with PTK Blam and Pong Soul. And then right back here on Xbox Lunch Break Special next Monday at noon. Hope
Thank
to see
you, brother.
there.
Definitely appreciate that. We have Jason Redmond drops a very generous $5 super chat and says Sweden is suggesting Microsoft and Activision are in a collusion lawsuit. I read it. It's laughable. Oh my goodness, it's so pathetic. There's not even any truth to it. It's silliness. It's just, the Sweden government wants to get their licks in there as well. Somehow it's going to go nowhere. It's preposterous. But Web Dave, sell your brand, brother. Talk about where they can get some of the best interviews in the gaming community, where they can subscribe to your YouTube channel, but more importantly, reach out to you on social media.
Thanks, Boom. Really appreciate you letting me be here today. I love this community. I love this panel. These all are amazing. And Crispy, love having you on today, man. It was great having you here, dude. So with that said, it's Outbreak podcast is where you would find me if you're looking on YouTube. Boom's nice enough to have it in the link in the description. You can just click on that for the Outbreak gaming series with lots of great community members. I mean, so many. Just Dealer, Randall, Thor, everybody on this panel is there as well, and so many more. Hargeet, Johnny, and Gaz. It's just it's I've been very blessed, and there's more coming. Probably be a few weeks before I have another new episode coming up because of scheduling. To be honest with you, a lot of people they're really busy this time of year, getting ready to wrap up the year for the holidays. So I'm trying to get a few scheduled so I can get some in the can, to drop over the holidays. But we'll see what happens. Again, Boom, a great show and great to be here. Love everything you do, and can hardly wait to be back on for Friday's Breakfast with Boom. And I know you guys got you and Mrs. Boomstick got a big giveaway coming up that people need to make sure they don't miss. $1,000 in giveaways. Yep. That's
$1,000 in a 2-hour show. Never been done before. And the only people that do it are corporations. And Mrs. Boom and I are not a corporation. Hell, we're not even an LLC yet. That is coming. We also have some merch announcements that are coming soon, folks. That's right. I'm working with the incredibly talented Ben Kenobi of Twitter. And he is currently working on a massive redesign of the channel. We started putting some stuff in there. You saw that the thumbnails for Breakfast with Boom have changed with Primetime Gaming, as well as the Xbox Factor podcast. Some borders, like today's Xbox Lunch Break special, they have changed. We're working. Well, he's the artist, and we're working together. He has one design done. He has 4 more that he's doing, and we're looking to launch early. Not only obviously on Twitter, but we're going to be having that merch associated with Double Barrel Gaming. That is looking to the soft launch the first quarter of 2023, and you'll be able to get your mugs and your t-shirts, and every show is going to be well represented with different designs, original designs that Ben Kenobi is creating right now. I'm looking forward. I've seen one of them. Oh man, it's so nice. I can't wait for the community to check it out. But ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for this week's new episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL. This is Double Barrel Gaming, and I want to wish you a wonderful day. I want to thank all the super chats that come in. They allow us to do these big giveaways. They allow us to upgrade our computers and lighting and cameras and software, and we couldn't do it without you. But of course, I'm going to close out the show, folks, with something that's important to me. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught me when we were kids. And he would say, son, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special.